welcome back to my channel. This is Wishblend reporting in. This is part 3 of the fan-based project Evolution and EDRPG Addition. Okay, personal weapons. Extra large weapons. They're basically extra long rifles which are between long and heavy weapons. They use the kinetic warfare energy weapon skill for attacks. So just like the heavy weapons, you can't move in the same turn you fire or reload. This category has been added to a few in-between weapons. The rail rifle, for example, is 2 meters long, so it does not fit as a regular rifle, but it also does not fit as a heavy weapon because it's still used like a rifle. Medium range. To get some variation into personal combat, some thoughts about your loadout instead of always bringing the biggest gun, these rules have been added. So small weapons and medium weapons are like pistols and SMGs can be fired from up close. They still provoke a melee attack here. Long weapons like assault rifles and laser rifles need at least a 2 meter gap between you and your target. They are too long and unwieldy to fire up close. Extra large weapons and heavy weapons like the chain guns and rail rifles need at least a 4 meter gap. These limitations promote the use of otherwise unwelcoming weapons like the SMG. It makes much more sense now to bring them to a close range fight instead of an assault rifle with an much higher range. The point blank shot calm ability can now be used to ignore this minimum range. Threat area. While up close with an enemy, you do not provoke an attack as long as you move within threat range. For most melee and fighting weapons, this is a 2 meter area around the enemy. Ready in action. This is a common mechanic in many RPGs. On your turn, you declare a trigger and what you do when that trigger happens. For example, I want to ready my action until the mercenary steps out of his cover, then I'll shoot. As soon as the mercenary steps out, you ready the action triggers and you can make the attack. If more than one player declares the same or similar trigger, they all happen at the same time. This is a great way to set up an ambush. Another example would be, as soon as he throws the grenade, I run backwards with both my actions. If he throws, you run backwards. If not, you spend your turn doing nothing. A readied attack action can also be combined with the aim action. You declare that you take aim and the trigger condition. If the trigger happens first, you do not get the bonus from aim, and instead trigger your action. If the trigger does not happen before your next turn, you get the bonus from aim as usual. Divide fire and similar area attacks. The current rules for divide fire are a bit broken, as only the main target is allowed to dodge. If that target can't avoid, all nearby targets are automatically hit too. This leads to a problem where you can simply target the weakest enemy and guarantee to hit on all others. You now roll a 2-hit as usual, but without a direct target. All targets inside the area check if their dodge is higher or not. If they're lower, they get hit by 50% damage. If they are higher, they hit by 25% damage. If their dodge is higher and they also bear on cover, they manage to avoid the attack. Incoming can be used to avoid the damage entirely without even having cover. So that's a calm ability there, incoming. That's one way you can use it. Continuous attack. Continuous attacks will attack after each player. This would mean that the attack fires continuously, yet the rules allow you to run straight at a target and attack it without getting shot. This is kind of weird, so this has been altered a bit. Draw a line from the enemy with continuous attack to the last player it attacked. If you run through this line, you get hit as if you were hit with a direct fire attack. Enemies with this ability who are alerted will have a ready allow an action readied and attack as soon as your target becomes visible. Which makes more sense now. I mean, someone's shooting down a corridor at your colleague or yourself. As soon as you step out of cover on your turn, you're going to get shot. So that makes a lot more sense. Light and heavy cover. In the core book, only one form of cover exists, which is described as crouching behind boxes or standing behind a tree. This is now considered light cover and provides a +2 bonus to defense. Since the character is only partially visible or behind a soft object that someone can shoot through. Standing behind a solid wall of reinforced concrete, behind a vehicle, or being otherwise not visible and reachable is now considered heavy cover and provides a +4 bonus to defense. Sometimes a heavy cover cannot be easily destroyed as light cover, tank armor for example. Destroy cover reduces cover by 1 step. Heavy cover turns to light cover, or light cover turns into no cover. Again, it's just common sense, but it makes more sense in the gameplay mechanics. Drop weapons to draw sidearm. Sometimes while you're in combat, you really don't have time to put away your rifle to draw a pistol, as this is your action for that turn. You are a sitting duck instead. You can simply drop your rifle as a free action, draw your sidearm and shoot. This has its own issues though, as now an enemy can kick the weapon away, or even pick it up and use it against you. To pick it up again, you need to move where it is and use an action to pick it up and equip it again. Okay. So moving on to the destroy cover and object hit points. In some cases it makes sense that an object will be destroyed with a regular weapon too, without the need for destroy cover. At the same time, not every object is the same, and destroy cover would have a different effect on different objects. A paper wall for example, it conceals the target so you don't know exactly where you have to aim to hit it, but after a few hits there's not much left of this object. It would not need a chain gun to destroy it. A chain gun would be more effective against a concrete barricade than an assault beamer, but an assault beamer would be more effective at cutting through a metal door. So you can spice things up a bit by giving these objects different properties and not directly destroying them when they are hit or by destroying cover. For example, we've got different materials here. You've got paper, wood, glass, rock, metal and reinforced. And you've got hit points and that alongside it. So if you've got something made of paper or wood, it's destroyable by anything. It just takes double damage from energy to basically destroy paper or wood. So you've got 5 hit points. As soon as those hit points reach 0, the cover's destroyed, gone. Glass, again, destroyed by anything, but it takes more damage from kinetic or explosive because of the material it's made of. Rock, it's got 30 basically hit points. So it needs to have the ability of your weapon needs to have the ability of destroy cover, but it takes double damage from explosive or half damage from energy weapons. Metal, basically, it doesn't give you any bonus for the type of weapon you're using, but it's between 10 and 20 hit points, but it just needs destroy cover ability on your weapon. Reinforced, that'd be like reinforced concrete, metal or anything along those lines, or reinforced armour. It's basically ×2 hit points, so obviously it's going to take a lot to get through. It doubles hit points for the material and has the need for destroy cover. So the way this works out is, for example, if it's reinforced glass, you double the 5 to make 10. Rock, you double 30 to make 60. It's that simple. And then of course it brings us on to the non-lethal damage mechanics. So sometimes you want to take out a target without killing it or them. This is where non-lethal damage comes into play. Non-lethal damage works slightly different from lethal damage. It does not decrease the target's health, instead a separate value is counted up. If this value equals or exceeds the current hit points of the target falls unconscious. This can happen even if a lethal attack decreases the hit points below the accumulated non-lethal damage value. Non-lethal damage can be recovered at a rate of 5 hit points per hour, followed by taking a full rest. Fighting generally deals non-lethal damage unless a character decides against it. Fighting is a bit of weird skill. Its description mentioned that it's all about martial arts, but improvised weapons counts as fighting too. Yet, if you use a rifle to club somebody, it counts as a club, which is a melee weapon. Not to mention that fighting can disarm someone on an even roll, but melee can't. So, with that in mind, here's a few changes and clarifications. Fighting is now only about martial arts. Any improvised weapon has to use a melee equivalent. For example, a broken bottle would be the closest to a knife. A rock would count as a club, a pointy branch as a spear. But since these weapons are not intended as weapons, they have disadvantages. They could break after a hit, deal less damage, or have a higher finesse. Fighting also nowhere mentions how many attacks you can perform per turn. If you want to attack with a chance to disarm, you can only attack once per turn. If you just want to punch or kick somebody, you can attack twice with the use of disadvantage. Resistance against fighting. Some of the enemies only have armor against energy or kinetic, if any at all. Examples for this would be almost all mechanical enemies or a tank-like Goluk. It feels a bit weird that you can damage those enemies with your bare fist. Here you can use the rule mentioned in your core book Cybernetic Scepter. Against a regular player who does not have cybernetic arms, those enemies have 5 armor against fighting. Players with cybernetics can attack without listed disadvantage, so use this rule in any enemy where you think it might fit. Armor absorption. Normally, you would always take at least 1d10 damage from an attack that hits you, even when your armor would be able to absorb the damage multiple times. For example, if you wear the powered armor and make your harness check to get 20 kinetic armor, any attack will still be able to deal a minimum of 1 damage. 7 players were unhappy with this, as they felt it was too punishing and would force them to play max dodge characters. To prevent that, simply reduce the received damage to 0. If it's absorbed then it's absorbed it. Okay, moving on to bonuses to skill scores. Some weapons, for example, have a plus 15 to kinetic skill score. Due to how skill scores work, this bonus cannot go above the current skill maximum. This means that those weapons do nothing for players who are already at the cap, or worse, at elite rank with a skill of 100. If this bothers you, simply allow players to get above their maximum skill cap with those weapons. The same goes for cybernetics. Strength and one-handed weapons. This confuses a few players that cybernetic arms are only a single arm, so should the strength only count for that one weapon? The simple answer is no. Strength is a global value that counts on any attack. If you have a plus 6 damage on your arms, you can add the plus 6 to both attacks. The strong enhancement isn't halved either when you attack with only one hand. Are cyborgs too strong to go in melee? This is a question that several players have asked when they encounter cyborgs who wield swords. Yes, at first it sounds strong when the cyborg can have a plus 20 damage on a one-handed attack due to his strength, but it's not. Here is why. Even the most basic auto pistol can deal 3d10 damage. Rare ones can even reach up to 5d10. Melee weapons only have 1d10. With only a rare sword reaching the 3d10 damage. Then there is range. Melee weapons have to be up close with the target, while pistols can fire up to 100 metres. And let's not talk about rifles, which can have more than 600 metres or more. A rare order pistol with 5d10 deals an average damage of 27.5 damage. Laser pistols can easily hit for up to 12 damage too. A nanosword has an average damage of 16.5, but it is way more random than a laser pistol and will never hit as hard as an auto pistol. If you ever want to reach the 50 damage of such an auto pistol, you will need 2 Type 5 cybernetic arms and a rare sword. And with 12 million credits per arm, that is not cheap when you consider that such an auto pistol only costs around 3 million credits. Cybernetic arms only level the field a bit by increasing the average damage. With 2 arms and a rare sword, you can reach 26.5 average damage, which is still less than a rare auto pistol. It is just more likely for the cyborg to hit this average damage, but still requires a lot more preparation due to the required items. And it cannot be used in all combat situations, so no, cyborgs are not too strong. Melee characters need strength and speed to be able to compete with the guns. Equipment modifiers. So some new equipment in the supplement will now provide a different passive modifier. The two big additions are scopes and biopods. Scopes provide a +1 bonus on your attack when you're not moving in the same turn. You spend the time aiming more carefully, but not as perfectly as with the aim action. Some scopes even provide further advantages like night vision. Some old weapons have been converted to this system when they had a matching description and a bonus to that score skill. For example, we've got modifications down here now. So the 5-point scope is basically found on the Thaldason 5-point scope pistol. It used to add 20 to the kinetic skill, now it adds a +2 to scope. So instead of basically getting a +20 skill, you get an extra perk. Smart scope, so basically gives you a better range. The multi-photon model scope adds a +1 to scope with night vision, thermal vision and EM vision. So I'll have a quick look at them before we move on. Again, you can always pause the video and come back later if need be. Bipeds have an advantage and a disadvantage. You lay down and place your weapon on an object to stabilise it. If you do, you get an additional +1 bonus to your attack, but your dodge skill is reduced to 10. And you do retain your bonus from the cover. So if you lie down against some rocks now, so you're in cover behind the rocks, but you got your rifle balanced on the little tripod, it gives you a better aim stability to shoot. Both of these attachments stack with the aim action and the car mobility, all the car mobility that provide a bonus to hit value. A list of attachments and converted weapons can be found in the personal equipment section of the supplement, which we haven't got to yet. Critical hit and limb damage. Oh, this will be something for the advanced players if they wanted to add them in. So critical hits are fun and can turn an encounter with a single critical hits and limb damage. Critical hits are fun and can turn an encounter around with a single lucky roll. Can also result in a TPK really fast, so be careful. Each weapon that can deal damage has the potential to deal a critical hit on a natural 10 to hit. Some weapons have an increased critical hit range, which decreases the required number. The attack still has to hit in that case, so a miss with a 9 still misses. Even if critical hit range would be a 9, a 10 is always a hit. The headshot damage modifier increases this range further. So a regular weapon would then have a critical hit range of 9+. If you roll a critical hit, it is your first just a guaranteed hit with no further bonus. You then have to roll a 2 hit again. If his attack hits 2, the damage is confirmed as critical. Weapons with a d10 damage roll twice the number of dice. Weapons with the fixed damage deals double damage. Strength is applied after the roll of melee or weapon. If you roll a 10 on that confirmation again, you also damage a body part of your target, which part is damaged. You need to roll a 1d10 on the table below. You can attempt to target the zone manually to increase. This increases the difficulty to hit by 5 and requires a confirmation. The aim action can be used in combination with this to reduce the difficulty to 0. So you've got a normal body there. Legs, feet, arms, head, torso, organ, lower body, eye and head. So if you hit somebody in the leg, their movement and speed is reduced by 50%. The feet, it increases the chance to fall over, knocked down by 20%. If you hit them in the arms, the fighting melee damage is reduced by 50%. The hands, well, if you've got a weapon in the hand and you shoot the hand, they drop the weapon. A torso, basically centre body, does an additional 1d10 damage and stagger the person so they can't move on the next go, so they miss a turn because they can't move. If they hit a organ, heart, lungs type thing, it's a bleeding effect. So they need to have medical treatment to fix it. Lower body gives them extreme pain, so they'd have to make a difficulty check of 6 to take any action. After 3 turns without an action, they basically fall unconscious and start to bleed out, and eventually they will die if they don't get medical treatment by one of their colleagues. Eyes, well, if you're good enough to shoot them in the eye, their perception of range is reduced by 50% and they can no longer use the aim actions. If it's a headshot, it does double damage. If it's naturally critical hit and not a targeted hit, the damage adds together to quadruple the damage. So that's a great way to take out an enemy if you really have to take them out. Okay, so we're moving on to stealth attacks. So these are like when you just need to take them out silently. If a target is unaware of your intent, you can attack the target with a 0 dodge. If the weapon is used for the attacker silent, it's also considered a critical hit, and fighting and melee weapons, with the exception of chainsaw, are always silent. So if you've got like a baseball bat, you can always silently take them out if they're basically unaware of you. Suffocation. Oxygen in space is a really valuable resource. Without it, you'll die. Everyone hold their breath for at least 3 turns or 18 seconds. Athletic skill provides additional turns here, 1 turn per 20 athletic. So with 100 athletic, you can hold your breath for 8 turns before anything bad happens. Performing a minor action reduces the time by half a turn. Performing a major action reduces the time by 1 turn. After those turns have ended and you're at the end of your strength, you have to make checks to not die. Here we use the endurance checks with a difficulty of 10 for each turn you are without oxygen. You use your remaining hit points as skill and roll 1d10. On success, the situation does not become worse and the difficulty increases by 1. On the first fail, you start to panic. On a second fail, you pass out. On a third fail, you're dead. Strangulation. Uses the strangulation suffocation rules, but it is an active decision with more control to strangulate somebody. The target has to be unaware of you or your intent, or you need to be physically overpowered. If your target is unaware, you just need to perform a grab against 0 dodge stroke parry, just like a sneak attack. If a target is in good active combat or knows what your intent is, you will need to succeed a fighting attack before the grab. This has to be done in the same turn, so the rules for 2 one-handed attacks are applied. Each turn you make the check against to see if the grip holds. As soon as the target breaks free either once, suffocation resets. Assassination. Some very skilled killers are called assassins. They are masters when it comes to swift and silent killing. Becoming an assassin is not an easy task. It requires strict training and a finesse for the art. The exact requirements are listed in the special abilities section, which is further in the project, which we'll get to eventually. You have to study your target before you can attempt an assassination. This takes 3 turns and you have to remain undetected. If the target notices your intent or presence or is otherwise alerted, the attempt fails. Studying a target is considered an aim action and you will receive the bonus for it. You then need to perform a silent stealth attack. This can be ranged, fighting or melee. If your attack hits, the target has to succeed at an endurance check with a difficulty of 5 plus the assassin's medical score or medicine score. If the target fails this check and the assassin decides to either kill or incapacitating a target has an effect for a minute equal to twice the medicine skill score of the assassin. So with a medicine score 50 medicine, the target is KO for 100 minutes. If the target succeeds at this check, the attack is still considered a stealth attack. Just to be honest, we don't really have much stealth attacks in the game at the moment. That's why we decided to add it into the project. So, rebalancing the explosives rule. Grenades have a bit of an oddity in the rules. They have 2 sets of rules with completely different outcomes. In mapped, the difficulty to throw a grenade is half of the distance with a minimum difficulty of 7. In mapless, the difficulty with an average of 7, otherwise it is 12. This is where it becomes weird. Both rules, as written, have different procedural outcomes that would even allow you to make impossible throws. Let's say you want to throw a grenade 50 meters. The difficulty of mass would be 25. This is pretty much impossible to reach, yet with the rules as written it would just be a miss. On a miss in maps, you roll a d10 for a direction. 1 to 8 are directions from the target, 9 and 10 is a straight line in front of you. So there's 80% chance a grenade lands near the target, no matter how far away it is, and 20% chance it lands near you. In mapless, this becomes even weirder. The difficulty is pretty much always a 12, no matter what. If you still miss, there's a 20% chance that it rolls away from you, 30% chance that nothing happens at all, 40% to land behind your target, and 10% chance to randomly hit someone. So even if you miss by a single point, like an 11 instead of a needed 12, you have a 20% chance to blow yourself up in both rule sets. This led to several players not wanting to use grenades at all, not to mention that you can't switch between mapped or mapless due to the wildly different outcomes and difficulties. To fix this, these rules can be used instead. Difficulty to hit is always half the distance in both mapped and mapless. If you don't have a perfect range set for the encounter, you have to use an estimate. If you miss, the grenade no longer scatters with the target as centre. It scatters from 2 times your roll in meters. For example, your target is 50 meters away, which means the difficulty is 25. With a skill of 40, the maximum you could roll would be 14 or so 28 meters. You roll a 6 and obviously miss since your result is a 10. This means the grenade lands at the 20 mark and scatters from there. This not only removes the possible throws, it also removes the self-punishment on a 1 to scatter. So as you can see, if you roll a 1, it's a dud, so there's no explosion. 2 to 9 is 1d10 meters in direction from the impact location, and 10 is no scatter. nice easy chart to use. So short version, you draw a line between yourself and your target. That is your throwing line. If it's 2 to 9, it's somewhere along that line, times your roller meters, 2 times your roller meters I should say. If there's a 10, it basically hits your target. And that brings part 3 to a close. I hope you're enjoying what you're seeing, and maybe it's generating some ideas for your games, etc. Or maybe you're just looking forward to getting your hands on some of these new technologies and stuff which we're bringing in. Either way, I'll see you in the next one. Laters.